problems and challenges in terms of food security in the world are becoming more complicated. The Asian Development Bank in 2009 stated in a report entitled Global Food Price Inflation in Developing Asia that the price of food increased by 30% and the inflation of domestic food was approximately 10% in the first 2 months of 2011. The increasing price of food in the world also resulted in the increase of poverty in 25 developing countries in Asia, including Indonesia. Food is the most important need for people since the fulfillment of this need is the most basic human right. In fact, Indonesia is well known as a country with wide seas and fertile land with abundant sources of food. Theoretically, Indonesia is also well known as the second wealthiest country in the world after Brazil in terms of biodiversity. The potency of natural resources is supported by the potency of wide agricultural land. Around 10.3 million hectaacres, or 14% of the width of agricultural land, is the yard that can be one of the very productive sources of food as long as it is used optimally. The Ministry of Agriculture considers the potency of the yard as one of the pillars that can be used to realize the prosperity of the family. For households in both villages and cities in terms of providing food for the family and improving the income of the family. On the other hand, there are many housewives who do not use their time optimally, and it can be the opportunity to do the productive activity through the optimization on the use of the yard. The Agency for Food Security of the Ministry of Agriculture has prepared the activity of acceleration movement of food consumption diversification. The purpose of the acceleration movement of food consumption diversification is usually to support and encourage the realization of various patterns of food consumption with safe, balanced nutrition that is indicated by the increase of desirable dietary pattern score and the reduction of rice consumption by 1.5% per year. One of the programs of acceleration movement of food consumption diversification that can give direct benefit to the society is the optimization of the use of the yard through the concept of sustainable food preserved garden. Sustainable food preserved garden is the concept of households that manage the yard as a source of food and nutrition for the family in a sustainable way. It is suitable with Food Law Number 18, Year 2012, that the national food security must be started on the level of individuals and households. The optimization of the use of the yard through the concept of sustainable food preserved garden is intended to support the provisioning of various sources of food with balance, safe nutrition for families like sources of vitamins and minerals, sources of carbohydrates, and sources of animal protein. Through the Sustainable Food Preserve Garden, people are expected to manage the yard intensively and to make families aware of existing sources of food around them, and to be able to use the yard that is previously unproductive to be productive. Furthermore, the Sustainable Food Reserve Garden also includes the intensification on the use of living fences, village roads, and other public facilities such as school gardens, houses of worship, and others. Green open space and the development on management and the marketing of production. The basic principles of the Sustainable Food Reserve Garden are as follows. First, the environmentally friendly use of the yard that is planned for security and independence of food. Second, food diversification based on local resources. Third, conservation of genetic resources of food, plants, livestock, and fish. Fourth, the preservation through village nurseries towards Fifth, the increase of income and prosperity of people. This development approach is done with the sustainable agriculture development by building the nursery, prioritizing local resources, and the use of local wisdom to maintain the nature conservation. The Sustainable Food Reserve Garden is done through the empowerment of women. Women have an important role to provide, choose, and process the food to eat for the family members in Indonesia. It is suitable with the estimation of the FAO that women contribute around 50% of all food supplies in the world, starting with planting, growing, harvesting, storing, and processing the food. Through the optimization of the yard, the targets of the Sustainable Food Reserve Garden activity are women with the members of at least 30 households near the location of the planting yard. The making of a demonstration plot, the media for school, and development of nurseries as a key factor for preservation and sustainability of the Sustainable Food Reserve Garden implementation to keep planting in the yard continued. The implementation of the Sustainable Food Reserve Garden can give many benefits to those who participate. First, providing food and nutrition for families. Nowadays, many households buy food at markets and they must spend the transportation costs or wait for the greengrocer to come. However, after those housewives use the yard, they can fulfill the needs of their family. Save money on transportation to the market, and sell the production to the greengrocer to sell at other villages. The tendency of people to not be aware of the sufficiency and balance of nutrition of the family is one of the factors, since the limitation on budget to buy nutritious foods can be solved with foods from the yard. That provides nutrition such as carbohydrates, animals and vegetable proteins, vitamins and minerals. Second, improving livelihood, since the cost savings of the households for buying food while the needs can be fulfilled from their own yard. Housewives can save the expenditure for daily needs of approximately 15,000 Indonesian rupiah in one day. And they can get an additional income of between 500,000 and 1 million Indonesian rupiah from the sale of excess food from their yard. The daily needs of food, such as chili, tomatoes, vegetables, herbs, fish, chicken and its eggs, can be fulfilled from their own yard, and they do not need to buy them again, and the money can be saved to buy other needs. Besides that, there is additional income for the household as long as there is excess production after the needs of the family are fulfilled. The fact proves that the use of the yard can be a source of additional income for households as long as the potency is optimally used. These benefits can also have an effect to eradicate hunger and poverty at the household level. Third, managing natural resources and protecting the environment. since the use of household waste for planting media, such as junk bottles, cans, packages of cooking oil, detergent, used tires, coconut fiber, and coconut shells, the making of compost, etc. It can reduce the carbon footprint since the food can be easily accessed without long-distance transportation for the distribution of food to the consumers. Besides that, the activity of the Sustainable Food Reserve Garden also changes the activity of housewives that are previously unproductive to use their yard that can be more useful. This will have an impact on the achievement of sustainable development, especially in rural areas. Therefore, the government keeps recommending the use of land, including unused land, embankment, and unproductive yards.
Hiasi halaman rumahmu agar terlihat lebih indah. Jangan kau kosongi, jangan kau biarkan saja. Tanami dengan yang bermanfaat, optimalkan pekaranganmu agar kelak nanti jadi sumber pangan yang